So allegedly we are live. Hi, folks. I'm going to assume that it's running live, but I'm going to double check and see that it's running live. But I'm going to start talking to you like it's live. Yes, we are live. I have to go in here and actually give it a title in the thing. That's how silly it's going to be. All right, but okay, I'm in here. I can see the chat room. Excellent. Hey guys, how's it going? It is Zerilath Eternal. I had been working on this presentation for a little bit. I'm hoping in the future that I hear from Ryder Lee to talk about this in context um, to A Clockwork Shining, his film on The Shining that he did and released on Amazon, and I think it's on Tubi now. But Slick has where Ryder hasn't actually seen and knows a few things already about The Shining being watched forwards and backwards. And so I went and I watched it for a long time. It took me a while because I went and did like I did with Holy Mountain and took 10 million screenshots. And we're going to break down all of the good stuff. So, Slick, why don't you say hi to people while I update the YouTube parameters?
Big love and respect, everybody. Yes, Zerilath, when you were thinking about doing this show, the timing in the heavens was absolutely very powerful. And in fact, I believe uh, when the topic came up on your end of the planning schedule, I was marveling at a particular meteor shower that was taking place at that point in time. And I want to say it was in February, uh, I believe late February, that you were talking about doing a Shining episode. And that was so profound in my research because I'm tracking these meteor shower cycles. And the day that you came up with the idea to do a Shining episode, there was a meteor shower shining down from the Centaurid constellation. It's called the Alpha Centaurid meteor shower. And I consider this the final meteor shower at the end of the year because it's almost 2 or 3 months before meteor showers on the major cycles become prevalent again. And just last week was the beginning of the next meteor shower is the Lyrid meteor shower overlaid with the Pupus meteor shower, and the poop is dead. Ding dong, the poop is dead as of last week. So yeah, we planned this
Mm.
right before a drought of meteors, and now we're launching it under a double window of Lyrids and the Pupids right now. Very synchronous. And let me say this: the Centaurids relate to the maze. I believe that the Minotaur's maze in that part of the story, if you're tracking these myths through the zodiac, the Minotaur's maze is correspondent to where the meteor shower was coming down. And this film ends inside of a garden maze.
Okay. It inside of a garden is the garden maze in the stars? It,
I do believe that the Centaurid meteor shower, the Centaurid constellation, it signifies a vast amount of the mythology of the island of Crete. And the island of Crete, where the Minotaur's maze is located, is where they would sacrifice Vestal virgins. And sure enough, on the strength card of Leo is the Vestal Virgin. And just as you move from Leo into Virgo, which is named Virgin, is where Centaur is in the zodiac. And so the elements of the maze, the primordial archetypal maze, was having a meteor shower as you were thinking about doing the movie that is about the maze of
okay.
Stanley Kubrick's mind.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because I mean, that's the strength card, and it's also something I've been noticing. Was on the U.S. debt clock. They've got a particular flash link for I guess they want the nation to know that we are in some sort of great American super cycle, they call it, right? And so it's this map of America with esoteric symbolism on it. It's got the track lines of all three of the last major eclipses that cut across the country, um, which makes kind of like an aleph or whatever sign as people say it. Um, and then they've got overhead, they have Leo and Virgo laid out on top, and then a string of planets in a particular order on top. 1827 was the last year that happened, and 1827 was um, it was
That was
either Andrew Jackson's first the last year before Andrew Jackson came into office or Andrew Jackson's last year in office. Long story short is they're equating this super cycle to the equivalency of what Andrew Jackson did to the economy.
very interesting. Also, we're within a couple of years of Nat Turner's revolt, which was syncopated to a lunar standstill that is on the major lunar standstill cycles that I track.
Mm,
So yeah, Nat Turner's revolt had a lot of Jesus programming in the narrative in that time.
got it. Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. So, let's talk about The Shining. So, um many years ago, Room 237 brought up this idea that you're supposed to watch The Shining forwards and backwards. And then back in the day when the YouTube was still Wild Wild West, the forward Shining and backwards was on YouTube. I watched it then. For this presentation, I watched it on Odyssey. Um, and so running running through um, this thing is a very interesting experience because you're also listening to it backwards, which brings in specifically the significance of red rum. Which the funny thing is that red rum spells murder backwards, but red rum also sounds like murder backwards. So
Totally.
he's saying murder, murder, murder on the forward track as you're listening to the back track of a scene. And I'll explain where the significance is when that scene pops up. Little things like that. There'll be little things where we talk about the audio as I've got all these video clips. It's mostly the video clips, but there are times where things are happening audio wise that also kind of make things very, very synchronistically trippy, and some of these syncs are too good to not mean particular things. So, um, let me grab here. Okay, oops, sorry. Screen share.
I just want to throw on the record that Kubrick has the same birthday as Carl Jung. I think they're both July 23rd, maybe 26th. They have the same birthday. And Chariot card generally has in the Rider Waite, is a character embedded into a cube. His chariot doesn't look like it's really going to go anywhere because it's a big block. So yeah, Chariot card, Carl Jung, Kubrick, very important.
All right. So the opening of the movie shows the closing of the movie here uh, when the just before credit crawl, because this is where everything actually like starts to sync up is here, right? This is I did time markers, right? So like you can find this at 2 minutes and 32 seconds of a typical properly aligned runtime, where the marking for the 1921 photograph that has Jack in it at the overlook is overlooking this lake at the same time, while the music is running forwards and backwards, a boom, 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 like that whole thing, right?
Right, and the technique we're doing of playing it forward and backwards is kind of giving us the ability to look over what we thought we took in the first time we saw the movie. So
Right.
this ghost image is kind of mirrored in the iconography of the opening credits there.
Absolutely. As well as I loved seeing this shot because Ryder in Clockwork Shining talks about the psychic driving element. So here's Jack driving on the road to the Overlook, and the overlay has Jack's face. It splits down the middle evenly at one point, but I'm catching this point right here where the car is right in his eye, right as he's running, and you're seeing this is the psychic split between the man and the monster, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
So that's foreshadowing the man and the monster. So that's pretty neat.
And he's
This
even
moment right here at 3 minutes 42 seconds is amazing. This centers in perfectly the center of Jack Nicholson's name, the center of the photographs of the Overlook, and the center of the driver's seat of the Beetle, where Jack is driving the car, all lines up at 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Right at the intro of the movie. To me, this is like the beginning of the movie when it all lines up right here. The psychic force, the evil, has Jack in the crosshairs. That's what this told me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus the folk, like the idea of the folk movement. And, the Volkswagen was developed by Hitler. This method of taking something, vilifying it, and then restructuring it into a commodity that the people actually love. Like this is the love bug,
Mm,
right? But it's got the folk movement and the history of what comes with that. Uh, this recipe, it has to do with hypochorism, where we take pet names and we round them out and they lose their edge so they can go down easy. The same thing happens with the Porsche 911. It's like the Porsche 911. It has the word 911 in it, but
yeah. Yeah.
but it is a commodity and people crave it, and it becomes a super ego that you identify with.
Yeah.
If you put on this vehicle, this label, this brand name, then you represent something way bigger than you.
That's really funny because it's the Porsche 911 that's used as the joke in uh, that dude's movie who did Borat, the dictator.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know,
totally.
he's in the helicopter over New York and he's talking in his language and he just says 911 like Porsche 911 or something, but the 911 is what comes across to the plain old white folk that are sitting across, and they start yelling terrorist and shit like that. So this scene I just grabbed real quick because this is the scene where it pans back to Jack after he's died, and he's iced over, and so just like it's like this is what he's driving towards. He's driving towards this stone cold death, right? That's at 4:06. You can actually see you should be able to see these time markers if you can see my cursor. You can see them all up here. So 4 minutes 6 seconds. You can see where that lines up, right?
And he's
So that's
heading into a
definitely.
cave right there.
What's
He's
that?
drive. Is he driving into a tunnel?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
actually you're right. There is. He's driving. There's a tunnel portion of the road right here because there's a side of a mountain that's blasted out, and that's a cliff on the other side. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this represents both. Like, so Jack, frozen in the maze, is Centaurus, right? The center of the maze, so to say. But the cave is just a couple degrees further on the zodiac, is the Corona Borealis. And let me look at the details, but they're just, yep, they're perfectly correspondent to each other. It's the same moment. So, but Corona Borealis is in the northern sky, and Centaurus is in the southern sky. I
Hmm.
think that's something I'm going to pay attention to with the film and the images. I
Okay.
think there's a Hyroscamos of the sky and the south sky,
Okay.
because oftentimes through the year, one part of the sky might be hidden or revealed.
Mm.
But yeah, that's totally the cave is Corona Borealis up here.
Yeah.
Centaurus is right here where he's going to die at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. I wonder if it would make a DNA helix where the symbols kind of make a double sigma wave as he
Hmm.
brings him in the story.
Right, right. Yeah, it depends how long.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the next point that I thought was amazing. At 5 minutes 16 seconds, this is where the chapter switches over to the quote interview.
Right.
And then this is the scene where Jack's lost in the labyrinth, rambling incoherently, wielding an axe, trying to kill his son. And this is the interview. Isn't
Yeah,
that
man.
just hysterical?
Very
Right?
much
It's just
so.
like he's gone completely into his primitive mind, and he's let whatever demons of insecurity have taken over him at this point, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And interview kind of has a little trivium. If you flip that W or care to, there's some trivium right there.
Mm, mm. Like the interweave,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Right.
Yep. We're entering the context.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I I picked this moment. What did I pick? Because here he's still kind of being the hunter, right? And but here he's like the pleasant gentleman at the counter. So he's the man hiding the monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a title like that for this file, this clip, makes a lot of sense just in context, just watching what's happening going backwards in front of it, because you're just looking at Jack in like at the end of the movie when he's full Minotaur, versus this where it's all in, where it's all bottled up and like there's so much about what it means where society keeps a monster in check. That's kind of what's implied in this
Mm-hmm.
isolation, because you find out as you watch the story that all of it's there. It's, the psychic driving is just picking at shit that's there from way before, way before.
Totally.
They make all this perfectly clear. Um,
Mm-hmm. And
I find it. This is an interesting synchronicity. The Wendy and the boy, I forget his
Danny,
name off the top of my head.
Danny.
Danny. Wendy and Danny are making their escape right when Jack is meeting our Kennedy with the boner. That's like, so the escape is lining right up with the meeting in the beginning of the interview.
Very interesting. Yeah. In Black's Law, the word solution, it really means end of contract. And so on one layer, we're seeing the beginning of a contract or the handshake, the initiation.
Yeah.
And on the overlay, we're seeing the end of a contract where she gets away with the kid and they run.
Mm,
They're trying to get free.
right. Right. Okay. Okay. So what was the point with this one? Okay, I called this one Union. I'm trying to remember what the heck this one was. It's a little bit faded. What was I looking at on each side of
Wow.
it? Shoot.
That might be the hospital my kid was born in.
Right. Like this is the apartment. Like this is where so like I've skipped quite a few minutes. There wasn't anything that significant, so some of this will move a little bit quickly, right?
That
So
looks
this is
just.
later on when it's panning back to, well, Jack's on his way back from the interview. This is
Uh-huh.
Wendy and Danny going through all that other evaluation stuff
You
that
know,
you can't help but think is connected with
yeah,
all these mysterious people that Jack is working for or something,
dude, it's all dawning on me. It takes place in Colorado.
right?
That literally looks like the hospital my kid was born in. I think we're looking at the window that she was born in. But it also, because the child is rooted in Colorado, it's going to eventually unpack in the Benet Ramsey case. The Benet Ramsey is kind of a royal bloodline sacrifice that happens in Colorado, just miles away from where the Shining is allegedly located.
Mm, mm.
I just thought of that because of that picture. With those, that's actually Boulder. That skyline is not that's not up in not Lyons Estes. That's not up in Estes. That's down in Boulder. That picture. I recognize those mountains.
Mm.
That's fun.
Alrighty.
That's kind
All
of
right.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm you have to forgive me. I'm forgetting. There's so many slides here, but I'm forgetting exactly what was going on the reverse side. It said union, so I think I was looking at some sort of an overlay that got poorly transferred over where I think like Wendy and was right on top of Danny between the two scenes. I think that's why I called it Union. Uh,
Okay.
so forgive me because some of these are they look a little bit sharper in motion with some of the ones that I caught. It was very hard to get these to work it out. So I called this one Wendy's inner panic because while we're seeing this, this is here. Here's Wendy, like the interview. Here's Wendy. She's just straight, right? She's all right. She's just chilling. She's just reading her Catcher in the Rye. Everything's good, right? You know, because as good as it can be reading Catcher in the Rye. But on the flip end of this, I think I think this is the scene where she's locked herself uh she's in a panic running from Jack, and I can't remember if on the reverse side it's gone as far ahead as the breakdown scene because there's a significant sync up with the axe wielding. I don't think it was this.
Yeah.
Um this is this is I call this one psycho school teacher. So this is Jack here lined up, and there's the there's crazy Jack is kind of in the background if you can kind of see this silhouette here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's who I was grabbing. It was either Crazy Jack or it was maybe the chick from who was in the room checking on Danny. It might have been one of those two. I
Okay.
thought my I thought my notes were a pinch clear, and there was a deep urge, a very Aries like get it out. So you're
Yeah.
dealing with a little bit of Aries level of preparation, which is little.
Yeah.
I thought this scene was amazing because here's Grady with his split mind, and he's overlaying this motherfucker. This guy who everybody gets the handler impression. Like he's the handler for the curator of the hotel, the guy who's the Jack Kennedy Don Trumpish looking dude, right?
Yep.
So he's the quiet guy who just looks over and he's like he's the recording witness and
He's
all
the
that
deep
stuff. Yeah,
state.
yeah, yeah. He's the deep state interconnect, right? And so I thought it was interesting that this particular scene where Grady shows up because he's revealing himself to Wendy. It's like one of the first ghost moments or something, right? And so he's showing up to scare Wendy while this is happening right here, which I find interesting. And by the way, I used to think that there was a slight possibility that it could have been with the psychic driving uh, um, revelations in Clockwork Shining that Ryder did that hey, maybe I had to watch the film again to find any clues. Maybe the CIA had people in the hotel. Maybe that's a secret like thing. But I looked really careful, and that's not possible. There's one scene which proves that it's all in Jack's head until they manifest on Wendy, meaning that they are ghosts or psychic projections, like a collect like a group of egregores or something, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
Jack's fate of being the curator that's implied by Grady, right? We'll get to that. That's all complicated shit to get to. So when Danny's first bringing out his friend, that he talks to, his shining guardian angel, right?
His trigger
His
finger.
trigger, it's happening at the same time Wendy's finding the weird shit in the hotel because there's the strange bear man pleasuring the strange businessman, right? One of these other ghost manifestations,
Is
right?
that the same? That's the overlap right there, huh?
Yeah, that's the overlap from the later scene when Wendy's running around looking for Danny, holding the knife, freaking out, and the ghosts are now popping up. So who the fuck are all these people, and why are they doing horrible things? And
Dude,
Yeah,
that this right here,
yeah.
this justifies a preponderance of evidence. We don't
the,
have to go
the, the,
any
the
further.
implications of the trauma on Danny from this scene in the reflection in the mirror is because it's also a reflection in the mirror in the forward run as much as it's a ghost projection happening in the backwards run of this particular scene,
Wow, that is so profound. So
isn't it?
I'm not sure. Somewhere in these first couple moments, while he's still dressed like this, and they're going through this kind of introducing the characters,
Yeah.
is where his mother mentions that he was born in Call, and that he has when he was born he has that the placental sac up on his crown. He's a man of the cloth, a soul of a higher calling, kind of like Rakastaldo.
Okay, right. Yeah. There was that, and then there was just also there was also the mention of an incident with his father, right? Well, to show that his propensity for being abusive is latent in him, right?
Yes, yes.
That's all there, and this is 1970s standards of, well, everybody thinks this is fine and dandy.
Yeah. I did this version of the film with a bunch of the spiders way back during lockdowns. And before the film started, I kind of threw down a theory for everybody that came true in the recording. I said, I've always believed that your placental daemonic twin is traveling towards you in reverse. And that's why your higher self knows everything that's going to happen in the future and is so intimate with your destiny.
Mm,
And that there's a communication that actually becomes stronger and stronger and stronger as you approach your midlife chapel perilous, come to Socrates moment in the world.
mm.
And then from that point on, you are actually the elder one, and your demonic twin becomes more and more impetuous and younger and more mischievous. And so now you're the one giving advice to your twin, whereas before your twin was the elder.
Mm,
And so that theory of your placental foreknowing, your far sight,
yeah.
your knowing, your psychic drive, right? It actually comes to the center of your life, and it's always some sort of, shredding of the veil. Well, that theory is articulated in this process that we're doing when we watch the film in reverse. And you'll see
Yeah.
that when we get to the halfway point, the perfect
Mm,
halfway point.
indeed. Here, this is the scene in reverse where our brother, the chef over here, this is where he gets axed. This is where
Oh,
Jack axes him, and so,
damn.
I wasn't 100% sure how deeply meaningful that is, but because that moment's important, just showing that it lines up with this mundane this is the nurse check, right? This is the
Right,
wellness check for Danny that's going on, right? And so Danny's being
right.
cared for, and the chef is about to be murdered. I want to say
Damn.
hi to the chat, by the way, and Mario's here. Symbolic Studies is here.
Big love,
Up,
Mario.
Mario. Everybody, go check out my conversation with Mario about polar symbolism. I introduce him to the Bach saga and aspects of the Norse mythos that I have been um, looking at as stuff that I think Mario needed to know for his studies. So,
That was a
all
good
good
one.
stuff is incredibly fun. All right. When the Here's Johnny is happening, Wendy's in the famous stressed cigarette scene. This is when Here's Johnny happens. Now we know why she's so stressed.
Wow, man.
Oh
The poetry. There's poetry going on here, It's kind of
yeah.
it's not comfortable poetry, but it's
Oh.
definitely artistic AF.
Oh, yeah, it's so unnerving watching the film this way. Especially with the audio tracking backwards, right? Um Here's closing day. He's opening up the door with the axe on closing day.
Yeah, man. So profound. Let's not fail to mention that, Jack means supplanter You know, Jacob, it really means supplanter, and that
Mm,
goes all the way through to Jack and the Beanstalk. And so the inevitability of a Jack ending up with an axe in their hand is
mm,
just harmonizing to the,
yeah.
all these almost all the way back to Mother Goose. You know, the consistency of these stories, they
Mm,
all hail back to things of children.
yeah, yeah. Also, Jack. I mean, if we want to play with the J, the J can be the Y. Jack is a yak, and a yak is a bovine of sorts.
All
There's the
right.
Minotaur.
Yep.
Um. All right. So this here is as I just noticed that like as he's going through all of those epic swings, where the camera's panning with the axe chop, right? As he's chopping wood, it's panning over the forest as they're doing the drive up to the overlook.
Jeez Louise. That's out of control.
Isn't
Kind
it?
of, yeah, kind of makes me think of like Gilgamesh and Enkidu having to fight against Baba Yaga. And part of what they wanted was, I think of this, the myth of Gilgamesh and Enkidu fighting Baba Yaga could also be encapsulating cultures that were trying to, take the resources of the Black Forest of Germany, you know, and then
Yeah,
also, what is it? There's a certain bark that has DMT in it. It's some sort of cedar, right? The cedars.
that has DMT in it.
I,
Oh, I don't know. I
I,
think I may have heard that somewhere though.
I think, yeah, I think some of the building of sacred temples for ceremony, I think the bark actually has to have DMT in the wood that
Okay,
builds these temples. And I think some of that had to do with the Baba Yaga story. But yeah,
gotcha. Yeah,
that's what comes
I
to
know.
mind with that.
Yeah, I know that there's a passage in the Havamal about tree bark. It's in I believe it's in the same stanza that talks about a couple of things about the moon and stuff. I'll look it up later. But there's something about tree bark, and it mentions it in a medicinal context.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so this picture right here is interesting because like he's going up the stairs to meet the family to axe them, and then here he is, in the juxtaposition of this is probably the only time where things are for the most part kind of chill, with the with the exception of how he like feels insulted, like he feels like his son's embarrassing because it's just like he said something along the lines of he heard it on TV or something about a particular like fact or something that he was curious about as a kid, right? You know, and you can understand why Danny would have the introverted tendencies that would bring him to his special friend when the child can't um, get the reflection of himself back from his father, right? I mean, the
Exactly.
mother has to do that, the dad has to do that in a different way, right?
Yes.
But it has to be done. I my dad's a wonderful man, but sometimes I look and I compare. I'm just like, Dad, you're a good man, but why are you sometimes a little bit like that, right? It's like that. So
Ver- very
here,
very apropos that Jack is driving the car, and it's like he's just trying to keep everybody alive on this damn mountain road. I don't have time to
yeah,
answer these
it's a
questions.
control. He's a control freak,
Totally,
right? He's a
totally.
control freak, but at the same time, you couldn't tell he's a control freak because also he's just kind of a typical like chauvinistic guy of the 1970s at the same time, right? So
Uh,
the film is making a very slight jab at this flaw of guys at that time.
yeah,
So this scene right here, this is where they're taking the tour and they're explaining about the Native Americans that used to live here. This is where Danny is saying murder in the other scene.
wow,
This is the
wow.
scene where Danny's running around the apartment just going red rum, red rum. And you realize that he's letting his friend take over he's an alarm system, right? So he's got a full psychic defense going on. He's going red rum. He's putting out a ping signal. He's doing like an echolocation in the psychic field. He's doing
Yeah, buddy.
red rum, and then just a few, like a minute before Jack is at the outside door, that's when he goes to the mother's room, and then he starts yelling red rum, right? And that's mom gets up, and then a few seconds later, Wendy, and he starts doing the thing, right?
Right.
So this I'm just calling it his guardian angel. I can't remember the name of the of what he calls his psychic influence. It's his daemon, effectively, right? So
Yes.
this is his daemon doing its thing, right?
Yeah,
When they made movies like this back in the day, they weren't thinking about like true like superhero stuff. So they didn't. No, they were telling a story. They didn't spend time like getting into what's his powers? What if he could do this, that, and the other? Like it didn't go that way.
right.
You have to understand what Danny's doing. You have to like know other Stephen King stories in his universe,
Mm.
which are semi based on the occult and shamanic practices that people like us do. Semi.
Yeah, man. I just want to point out how Socrates, his daemon, only had the ability to tell him what not to do. It wasn't like it made him a really good gambler. It just told him
Excuse
when
me.
he was going to be in danger or in hazard. And that's kind of part of the thing about these gifted individuals. They have they're often asked to predict the future. They're often leaned on to be like, hey, how can we use this beneficially to plan ahead? But at the same time, people get real weird when you prophesize. People get real weird.
Indeed. Yeah. Now, I called this photo Navajo Cherokee twin, and I mentioned that because for one thing, I looked up that flag, um, up there, right, and so there was I think that's the Colorado flag,
You
but
got
the
it.
Colorado flag uh, has something to do with the Navajo and the Cherokee. And then
Mm.
the twins, the first time you see the twins is here. And it's not clear who the twins are yet because there's still people in the hotel because they're still getting out. Like they're not alone yet. The boss hasn't left yet for the
Right.
winter, right?
They
Um,
could be totally actual twins. They have a reason they might be there still.
right, exactly. And once again, I'm trying to remember what the heck did I put this over? Why did I put
Well,
um
I got to say,
I want to say she might have been at the radio in the office at this time.
okay,
Maybe
yeah,
that might have been it. I can't. I am sorry. I cannot remember now.
okay,
I was doing this over several weeks with so much
yeah,
on
man.
top of my plate. Um,
Let me rap about the dart. The dart is the next NASA narrative that they can shoot something up there to bounce a meteor or a comet so it won't strike the Earth. And they call it DART is the new name for the NASA whatever projectile that savior projectile.
right. Yeah. Huge money operation. We know. Let's see. So this I thought was really cool. The first scene in the gold room has this moment because here's Jack in the cooler and they're in the gold room and what do we have over here? Golden Ray is the name of the brand that pops up right here.
Yeah, buddy. Yes. For one, the number of phi comes to mind, and the refraction of light and the spiraling of life in the number phi comes to mind because it has to do with the golden ratio, the golden means, sacred geometry. But a lot of people today they hear the word ray and they think Star Wars. I
Ah,
just saw a good Star Wars meme today, but
Right. Exactly. Yeah, but this is golden rays. It's obviously rays of the sun,
Hmm.
but it's spelled REY, right? So it's a different kind of ray. I'm not sure exactly what goes on with that. All right. So that was the main thing about that. And what's also very interesting, they're standing outside of the locker room in this scene while Jack is trying to barge out before the ghosts let him out.
Right. And this is the scene that there's some cognitive dissonance that I think uh, Jay had pointed out before that when they go into the cooler, they're in one particular hallway,
Uh
and
huh.
there's a few minutes in the scene. But then when they come out, it's a totally different hallway, and we're supposed to believe that this is the same place they came in, but it's totally altered. And Kubrick would not
Right.
miss that detail. That's so
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
intentional.
The
Yeah.
Minotaur's labyrinth. The labyrinth is a changing maze, right?
Right. Good
Um,
point. Good
I
point.
don't know if this is the first movie to do it, but it is one of the most notable early cinematic, like major films, to really take the idea of a liminal space or latent space and film it as a setting. The Overlook Hotel in the winter as is kind of like when you go on YouTube and you watch like a 10-minute video that's all CGI of a guy going through endless hallways and then there's a big scary thing that chases you, right? It's the
Totally.
same, like, it's the liminal space. That's what the Overlook is. It's part of what makes it terrifying is that it is just so overwhelmingly confusing that you can't even notice that it's changing on you, which makes it even more maddening.
Totally. That's a great point. The that movie Labyrinth, that you could almost consider the whole film basically the Wheel of Fortune card. Um,
Hmm.
because Wheel of Fortune card is Centaurus, card number 10. It's also Deus Ex Machina in an interesting way. And that's kind of the thing about the God machine right now is it's always changing. It's always evolving. I'm sick and tired of having to go to re-education camp for every app that I want to use on the phone. Uh, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's almost like what if Uranus designed a pathway? It's a very Uranic kind of
good
place.
call. Good call. Big time.
This is while the chef is warning Danny um uh he's giving him the talk about his shine. He's giving him his initiation into getting to know himself a little bit better, right?
Yes.
So, uh he is our super awesome magical Negro, right? This magical Negro archetype, right? We all love him. He's amazing. He's one of the most important people of the film.
Yeah,
Um,
he's the most endearing masculine
yep,
character in the film for sure.
yep.
And
And then
this,
yeah, and so this right here is got Jack in the background. I think this is I think is right around the time that of the all work and no play reveal. I
yep,
think that's right when this is happening. Um,
exactly. And I want to point out that the conversation between the curator and Danny, uh, you know, th- this is kind of indicating that those with the higher calling, because the curator had the same thing at birth. They both have the same placental uniqueness to their obstetric rite of passage. And so he's recognizing that Danny has the shine. And he's just kind of saying like, not everybody's going to see the way we do, kiddo. He's kind of showing him the ropes of having extrasensory perception. I just want to point out that the Dr. Feelgood is a book about a doctor named Maxwell Jacobson, and Maxwell Jacobson was had created a very unique for its time a form of methamphetamine, and he was using placental tissues infused into this methamphetamine, and he was injecting it into patients so that he had a lot of high influential people under his thumb, including JFK and Charlton Heston.
Mm,
And this recipe of what we've called placenta meth that Maxwell Jacobson had, he sold it to the Nazis, and
mm,
it was called Pervitin. Is the name of the formula for placenta methamphetamines that he sold to the Nazis,
mm.
and this is why Hitler is tweaking out so bad when he goes to the Olympics and he's tweaking so hard at the Olympics.
Mm.
At first, I thought he was trying to dodge the snipers.
Uh,
But then we realize he's
gotcha.
high on this Maxwell Jacobson concoction.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what he was. He was trying to make a lot of super soldiers through that chemical indoctrination.
Yes.
But yeah, no. Actually, it was portrayed for World War I in the King's Man, which is the prequel to the Kingsman
Oh,
franchise. In
interesting.
that one, Rasputin is poisoning the Tsar, right?
Wow.
And so because Rasputin, the movie was amazing. My biggest gripe with it is that Rasputin was actually only a minor villain who like he dies in like the second act or something of the film or whatever. Like he's like I thought he was the big bad, but he was like just at the table of a larger conspiracy. Um,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah.
he was he was a Callisti, and they were self-flagellators, and I think of this as basically the Catholic uh, Eastern Orthodox version of the Opus Dei. You
Mm,
know,
mm.
yeah, the Callistis of Rasputin. They got a
Yeah.
thing for cracking their own whip, wiping their own crack. Yeah,
Yeah. There was a. I can't remember exactly what of their weird practices was mentioned in the film, but one of the characters does question him about it. Like is a good movie. Like I highly recommend you watch it. Like if you haven't watched it, like as a guy who loves dance fighting with you capoeira,
yeah,
uh,
buddy.
yeah, Rasputin fights like a Russian dancer. So he's doing all that. Like they show it in the trailers too, right? He was a fucking cool character. They killed him.
Too much fun.
They
Too
killed
much
him too
fun.
early. Damn it, he was too cool. How the hell do you kill a guy that cool? So this scene right here is one of Danny's first little like roll tours through the Shining, and um, Jack is having one of his uh, um, he's having a rant. He's ranting about. I think this might be where he's talking about the incident, if I remember
Okay.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this as well. This is just another juxtaposition of Jack looking being okay and Jack
Wow.
being insidious.
Right. It's almost like the moment when his astral self comes into his body and he's waking up out of bed or something.
Yeah. Now here's
Very.
this: when in the backwards run, when it gets to all work and no play, here's Jack doing all play and no work. This is that first scene alone where he's just playing wall ball instead of writing the
Whoa.
book.
Wow.
Look at that. Like, it couldn't be more poetically fucking perfectly synced.
Yes. I wonder how many more movies do this. How many other movies are perfect enfoldments onto
Very,
themselves?
very, very few, man. Like you've got to look at filmmakers that are like serious artists and are very interested in doing that, right?
Right.
Especially like someone like him was very interested in like in the esoteric baked into the film, like as a process. How many guys are doing it on that level as opposed to just, filming a really, really good story with beautiful shots and a tight thing and all that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's got to be a handful of guys, and I'd imagine some of his proteges like Spielberg have done it their way, which
Yes. Yes.
probably are more nefarious than what Kubrick was doing.
I wonder if the method has a technical term, like that only the high priests know what to call it.
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, like we're all talking we're talking about a new kind of media this way, right?
Yeah,
So also, while this all work and no play thing is being revealed in the later half of the film, here is where Wendy and Danny are going into the labyrinth. The play in the labyrinth, that the actual labyrinth that's in the property, um, which is play, but at the same time, it's critical for Danny's survival. That he
yeah,
took the time, the luxury of the time to be in there. And
yes.
while
Uh,
she's looking at the labyrinth of Jack's mind, the screen is showing you the labyrinth itself.
wow, that's
Isn't
so
that awesome?
powerful, man. It's so obvious. I would love to hear somebody try to plead the case that this is just the muse is incidentally conveying something through him, it uh, but I think it's obvious that there's intentionality because it just
Right.
happens so many times over and over. And I want
Yeah.
to I
Yeah.
want to point at the correspondence. So Centaurus is very close to Libra. It's basically Virgo into Libra. A lot of people are going to mention the library and the labyrinth. And it is fascinating that language is labyrinthian, especially English, because every word has so many different meanings.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Much like a film can have so many different meanings. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Here's another scene that came up that was significant. Here's Jack playing with the ball again, and here's Wendy with the baseball bat defending herself.
Jeez Louise. It's almost like he's ping ponging or playing tennis with himself in time.
I know. I know.
I just found out that ping pong is like incredibly more popular than you would ever imagine. And there's like the highest end bets are actually happening on the ping pong circuit.
Mm,
That's wild. I never
mm,
would have guessed. Makes me respect Bruce Lee more.
mm, mm. This is once again, this is while they're doing the zoom into the maze, and uh, it's backwards, right? So she's technically walking away from the book, right? But the juxtaposition that is intended is there. Um, both of these scenes are mother and son separated, mother and son together in the center.
Hmm.
So that I thought was interesting on its face.
Yeah, I want to mention Stephanie Peterson's work on the. She's trying to suss out the musical concept of the Mies, and this Mies is like kind of going back to the old frequencies and measures of sound and phonetics. She's looking for the Mies, which is kind of the even temperament. It's not exactly the mean, but that's kind of the old word for it. But yeah, that just kind of comes to mind.
Mm. And it wasn't particularly significant, but a few frames later, it became Tuesday. So it's the
Hmm.
same shot a couple seconds later, and it's Tuesday now. So I had to marker that it was Tuesday, right? Um, this is the first the scene where Danny stops because he's curious at 2:37 for the first time is the scene where the chef is on his way to the overlook and he catches the red bug that was in the car accident that Kubrick changed um, for the movie.
Wow. Wow. That's so profound.
Mm, yeah, yes.
And
So
that's the moment when we see him with the NASA shirt. The kid has the NASA shirt. Looks like the Apollo.
uh no, no it's not. Not
Not
yet.
yet.
I have
Okay.
a because I took a shot of that because you have to take a shot of that. That's a key moment in the film,
Okay.
whether it's significant or not. So, that's coming up. That's coming up, right?
Okay.
Because he eventually, yeah, because like I think it's after that shot is when he actually goes to room 237,
Okay.
right? Um, all right. So this is an 8 a.m. Uh, uh, just a marker for 8 a.m. at that this time in the film, which I think is in a later point. Um, this right here, though, this is Jack is sabotaging the comms, and then he's just having that evil stare, also, right? Because this is like one of the first times in the backwards run that you're seeing him um, uh, just before the scenes where he's not so vicious, right? And here he is doing this subtle little thing, right? Which ends up making sense because in the earlier conversation, Wendy is just like, oh, like, Jack may, there may be a problem or something, and Danny may need help. Because I think Danny hurt his arm, and I
Oh
think,
yeah.
and it was like, it's like there was no scene where Jack hurt his arm, though, right? Even though Jack possibly could have hurt his arm, but we don't know why his arm is hurt because I don't recall there being a ghost that hurt his arm either. So something
Maybe
hurt his
it's
arm, and they kind of don't address what it is, other than it leads to Wendy's accusation.
yeah.
Because obviously there's no one else here except for the ghosts Jack's not talking about that he's already been meeting.
Maybe there's something to some deleted scenes that would contextualize it, but I
Oh,
just want
dude, the deleted scene, like, this is one of the most reshot movies that was ever
totally.
shot at the time.
Yeah.
Or, reshot scenes just because he made somebody take 50 fucking takes, right?
Right, right. I just want to look at this face right here and tell everybody how, like, you know, we know him from this early role in his career. And I think we do a lot of like compartmentalizing and kind of secular thinking to be like, okay, and later he's going to be a different character that has nothing to do with it. But in fact, here is Jack, and later he becomes Jacker. He becomes the Joker in Batman.
True,
And,
but he was also Two Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
totally, totally. So
Criminally insane person is one of his typecasts.
that's it. That's
Yeah,
totally it.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
And this is kind of how we think of archetypes, and I always have to point at how they're manufactured. They're kind of less than natural archetypes. But you mentioned an idea a long time ago about Carl Jung's imago, and the imago is something a little bit sterilized from collectivism. It's the same kind of logismoi. It works like an archetype, but the imago has less to do with what everybody else's expectation is. And so I just love these fine nuances of these thought forms that Carl Jung was putting forward, because this Jack Nicholson is the supplanter and becomes the Jacker, the Joker in Batman, as
Right.
we grow up with his likeness in his typecast role.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, also with just the transformational aspect of it, he's also I forget his character name, but he's the dude in Wolf, and this acting served well to show the inner werewolf coming in, like, just like, this is why you had the kinds of warrior trainings that you had where the Ulfidnar comes from. You've got this appetite for violence, this wolf spirit within you that needs to be brought
Slated.
under control of your higher mind.
Totally. That's why
Yeah.
he has the best Laker seats there are in the business.
Yeah.
So
Right.
he can slate his bloodlust.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I can't remember why I took this shot. I called it Shining Radio. So
Hmm.
what was going on here? Oh, that's right. Okay. While Wendy is going to talk on the radio, um, she's having a conversation with Danny's guardian. Danny's psyche is parked in the back, and the guardian is talking to Wendy, trying to tell Wendy the best that the guardian understands the danger of Jack and the others in this building, right?
At the same
So,
time, she's crying out for help on the broken radio signal.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if
Wow.
I'm not sure how stressed she is in this scene on the backwards run. Let's see.
Oh,
This is
snap.
the famous second time that we see the twins when it's like this.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
You know what? You want to play that clip that I sent you last night? Because a lot of synchronicities almost anticipated our show.
Uh-huh.
Or we could play the clip, or just bring up the graphic
From
from the
wait, are you
telly.
talking about did you send me something here?
Yeah, here, I'll let you choose. I'm going to send it. It'll be the most recent thing in our Telegram. I'm
Most
sent.
okay, the most recent okay, okay, it's not a video, it's this picture or wait, now
It's
you wanted to show people that okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This just came up yesterday,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah,
It's
this will be a fun thing to share. Okay, so this literally just happened in the effing news in Australia, and you're straight up talking about. Oops, hold on a second.
And I just want to point out that, in tropical, Jupiter is in the twins right now. And in sidereal, Mars has just kind of moved out of the twins. But in the tropical zodiac, Jupiter is in Gemini, which is old Chumpster's birthday. It's JFK's birthday. A lot of white
Mm,
rabbit symbolism with the Gemini.
yeah, yeah.
But
All right.
this just got launched yesterday. Zerilath and I have been
So
planning to do this show.
I just like okay, so like I can't believe that these twins are actually like the kinds of twins you see as a gimmick on TV and movies that talk at the same time. Like you're about to see one mind of two people. Like you're gonna see that level of twin over this crime that just effing happened, and they're the witness.
Yeah,
The
buddy.
two witnesses. Much.
This is, yeah, man. This is the East and the West split. This is the Filioque way and the debate over
Yeah.
the Trinity. And also, the CIA is bound and determined to get our left side of our brain and our right side of our brain to not syncopate. So we'll argue with ourselves.
Mm.
And if you notice, they speak with a great fidelity, but every once in a while, they speak little split up. But go ahead and play it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me. I'm not sure. Let me know if the audio is running.
This big bang. We said, oh no, another car accident. So we drop everything and we went running out the front. We seen mum running out from the house up there, and then the other cars were pulling up
and checking to see if the person was
okay.
okay.
And one guy, he was up there with our mum, and he went up there and
He
he
was coming back down
towards us, and he goes, run, he's got a gun. And our heart started to pound, and I said, oh, mum, where's mum? And poor mum was stuck up there.
I mean, like their witness testimony is also identical because whatever happened that they went through, they also went through it together. So there's no reason for them to tell separate stories either. This is
Right.
one mind. This is
It is-
so insane. Let me let it finish.
Yeah,
But my
buddy.
God,
But apparently our brave mum, she goes, are you all right?
Because he had all
Blood all over his face. And he goes, I'll shoot you. She goes, hey, I'm here to help.
And mum distracting him to make him look the other way, and he looked the other way, and mum ran into
the bush behind the
the
fence.
fence.
And the
And
guy
I
goes to her, I'll find you and I'll shoot you. All I was thinking about when we were running,
I hope he doesn't
fire.
fire.
Yeah, we were so blessed.
How close to him do you think you were?
Well, see, he was up there, and we were past
See,
our
when you
So maybe
driveway.
100 meters.
Yeah,
or so.
yeah.
you don't think of
all of that at the time.
no, you just run for
your
your
life.
safety.
Yeah.
Like right there at the end was the only time where they slightly deviated as they were both choosing slightly different words to try to answer the question, but they were still saying the exact same thing. Like
Yeah, buddy.
it's so like I don't think that they staged the way that they are, right? They may have staged the whole thing and they as like that's a they them. That's a proper they them literally. Okay.
Whoa, dude, trip me out. So can you pull up the graphic I made?
Yeah, sure. Which one?
The one with them on it, because this is going to be put on the fire to fuel the telepathy tapes narrative.
All right.
This is totally going to make people want to be like, "We told you so" about the telepathy tapes. And the timing of it is really potent, right? They just sent a bunch of women up for some uh, uh, space decadence. They just had a expression of space decadence with the ladies in space. Um,
Where is it? Did you? Did I? Oh, I didn't download it yet because it's new. Okay.
yep. But even the design of their dress, right? They're both wearing kind of 90s. They look like they're in their skivvies, so to say, kind of cute in the blue.
All right.
It's exactly the same color as the dress of the twin girls in the hallway with Danny. And furthermore, the color scheme of the telepathy tapes, it actually fits into these two girls. I don't see it as a.
There we go.
It could be a star card, or more likely a high priestess, because they look like Dorothy too. Dorothy looks like the twin girls. There we go.
All right.
But yeah, the way they're dressed and the Gemini aspect of it, and also we know that the NASA has an obsession with people who are twins. When I was in high school, I went to a high school that had an exceeding number of twin brothers and sisters in my school. I always have a hard time remembering all of them. I can at least pull up 7, and I have a sense that there were a few more that I'm forgetting. So yeah, for that to come out the day before you and I are going to do our episode, Zerilath, I just love to think that we're guided.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Cool. All right. So we'll get back to that. Okay. Let me go back to our regular presentation. All right. Yeah. So we're in the hallway. The juxtaposition here. Wendy is having her big nervous breakdown. This is where she's pacing in the little apartment room, smoking the cigarette, talking to herself. She's in the cognitive dissonance of she can't admit that her husband is it seems to be a danger, right? Like
Yeah.
this like I'm sitting there like I'm realizing like what she's actually saying to herself for the first time with this picture or whatever, and I'm just like I'm really feeling like terrified for her. Like I'm not scared because of the way the movie is doesn't scare me, but I am terrified for her looking at it from like uh she's a good mom who has the problem of not being a conscious mom. Right? Because the conscious mom would know these things because she would know herself better and thus would know somebody who doesn't know themselves and would do things on an automatic whatever because they've forgotten who they are. Right? Because
Right.
Jack forgets who he is, which is a guy who fantasizes about writing, but ultimately is a glorified janitor.
Right. And something about her, she puts herself in a situation in the isolation that she doesn't have an escape hatch. There's nowhere to go. She's isolated up in Estes Mountains with them. And that was part of the Lady Space astronauts. They popped the escape hatch too soon.
Mm. This here is I think this is the red bathroom scene, and here's Grady, and naturally, because that's filmmaking, when you're playing with the rule of thirds and centering stuff on screen, his mouth is right over his own daughter's.
Dang, dude. That's a trip. That's a trip.
Yeah.
Oh, split tongue. It serves two purposes. He can speak duplicitously.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. But
Yes.
you're gonna be doing that to run the MK Ultra sub programs while you are psychically driving them exoterically
Right.
with the story they want you to believe you're telling them.
Right. Codex Biparius. That is a lost concept from the sovereign movement. I can't find it on the internet anymore, but Codex Biparius is sometimes called serpent tongue or split tongue. Yeah, that's it. That's an old nugget.
Mm. So Monday passes while this scene is happening. This is the scene I was talking about with you earlier. This is one of these profound link ups. So here's the famous impossible television that's pointed out in room 237, where there's no antenna, there's no cable for power or for what, like, how is there television up here like this? The winter has started. You can see the snow in the back, right?
Yep.
So
It's Tesla technology generated.
Tesla technology generated, but also, once again, Grady's mouth, because its center screen is also centered with the television. And in this scene is where he is speaking to tell people to murder. It is the only time in the film that you get the expletive of the hard N bomb, which comes from Grady's mouth
Yeah.
and
The,
makes Jack repeat it, or it doesn't make Jack repeat it, but Jack like repeats what he heard him say, because he says an N cook, or
right.
the N cook or whatever, and that's what Jack says, the N cook, right? So this is where all of that is going down. Um,
Wow.
Now check this out. This is that, like, one of the last tender moments between Jack and his son, and then here he is talking about murdering his son in the background.
Dude, it's just replete. It's replete. Like I'm seeing so many more things just by virtue of looking at it again. It's so
Yeah,
perfectly overlaid.
yeah.
I want to
I
mention that
I
the
oh,
part in the last image where the TV is on his mouth, and I just want to mention the hate speech. Right, that's the first time that hate speech is thread from the forward read into the backwards read
okay.
is the N word. But I always point out how N word is the word no. And that's how Neo stops the bullets in the Matrix. He uses the N word. And that's a little nugget from the Stoics.
Yeah, yeah. Um uh um and oh yeah, and also I wanted to say an interesting thing with this bathroom is that apparently the new movie that came out like last year or whatever, called The Substance with Demi Moore, it's a body horror film,
Okay.
um, is inspired partially by The Shining, and she's in a bathroom at the beginning of the film, designed near similarity to this room. I watched like the first 10 minutes of it, and I stopped because it was late at night and nothing had happened yet, and I said, "Okay, this movie looks like it's going to do pretty good." And it looks like it's going to really make me feel uncomfortable. I'm going to psych myself up and come back to it when I am psychically protected instead of driven. Because I love me's some very well done horror, body horror. I'm a big Thing fan. Um, so anyway, he's having a drink on Woden's Day.
Yeah, man, bringing on the frenzies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he has a so Wednesday hits. He's having one of his bar hallucinations. Um, while he's having this particular hallucination, the 237 room has popped up. I think this is happening backwards, the bar. And so this is
Wow.
I think this is when Danny actually like goes to the room because this is like the second time the door's
Yeah.
ajar for no reason. The ghosts have left the door open this time.
Dude, listen to everything you're saying. Okay, hold on. There's so much right here. So first of all, I want to mention the Magi card. He has all of the implements on the table, the coins, the cup, the wands, the swords. But also everything you were just saying about the door is ajar.
Hmm.
It overlays and inverts onto the bartender is using a jar full of the liquid. When he pops the top off the liquid, it's like opening the doorknob
Hmm.
and then filling up the cups to serve up these drinks so he can go into a mental palace of intoxication.
Okay. Right. Yeah, which is interesting because there's no booze there, right? So
Yes.
he's not even actually getting drunk, or he is by a kind of self-induced placebo effect
Yeah.
is drunk,
Man,
right?
you yeah, I want to mention that what the way that Saturn has just passed through Aquarius over the past couple months. Um, maybe 4 or 5 months, Saturn has literally progressed through the pouring out of the jug of Aquarius. Like Aquarius has that water streaming down. Well, Saturn just went through the stream like a car wash over the past few months. And
Mm,
there's just something about that this year in the events that have been taking place and this scene that I see as correspondent
mm,
to Saturn kind of getting drunk on its own dominion because Aquarius is Saturnian.
mm. All right. All right. So I'm seeing this scene, um, and I call this scene "Was Wendy a Waiter?" And there's the waitering
Oh,
stuff happening in the background as it's panning while she's kind of walking around. She's not working with the food or anything, but there was just something about it where like because they're playing off of this past lives thing. Was Wendy a waiter at the Overlook in her past life, and why she's fated to be there? Was a question that
wow.
I asked myself with this scene as she's trying to work with the radio.
Yeah. And, Wendy, okay, I got to say this. For one, that's actually the name of one of the twins from my high school. Was like uh, Mindy and Wendy were a set of twins from my high school. That's kind of weird. But also, everybody's association of Wendy is a fast food restaurant. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah,
It,
yeah,
and
yeah,
often Wendy's father is depicted wearing the apron, the chef's apron.
yeah.
And there's a heroic chef in the story here
Right.
as well.
Well,
So I'm
oh,
just
we
picking up
also
some
have
reference.
Wendy from Peter Pan. That's another
Oh,
famous Wendy.
dang. Great call. Even bigger, even larger. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent
yeah,
catch.
yeah. And actually, you could run with that. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Pan wants to play all day.
Totally.
You know,
Totally.
there's something to that. And then with the child abuse illusions, the aspects of what's going on with piracy, human trafficking with Captain Hook, so on and so forth. The
Yeah,
Lost
buddy.
Boys, right?
Yep. Big
Mm,
time.
mm. Um, so uh, Wendy's going into this high voltage room in this one shot, or working with some high voltage stuff, while Jack is going to the gold room. Um, this scene I think was the first scene in the film for Jack where he's angry and walking, right? You know, Kubrick's doing one of his like signature kind of like tracking shots with somebody who's walking, and it's the thing because like because of my Aries tendencies, like I get this when you're kind of like having a contained temper tantrum. You're just walking walking wherever, holding your anger, like, "Arr, arr," right? And so like this is him. This is the Minotaur. Like this is the Minotaur beginning to ride his nervous system, right? As his Sandy's being eaten, right? And he's
Excellent.
going to the gold room to hallucinate getting drunk with his past life, right?
Yeah, man.
Um,
Yep. And there's
yeah,
some.
and
Uh,
there was another. I may be repeating a point that I got in a later shot, but I'm going to say it now just in case I didn't take the shot like I thought I did. Right.
yeah.
The one thing that proves that this couldn't have been secret government spooks fucking with these people is that Jack's having a drink, a full party's going on in the gold room, and then Wendy turns a fucking corner to see Jack for something, and everything is not there. A half
Right.
second later, meaning she
Right.
didn't hear anything turning the corner, whatever. These ghosts are can control who sees them, and only Jack could see them, or at the very least, everything was a projection except for the ghosts that are directly talking to him in the psychic driving aspect of this story.
Yeah, man. I love how you got a sense for like you got to feel out the metaphysics of this universe he's conveying. He's not going to give
Right,
it to you
right.
right out in the open. It's going to be implied by the camera work and the gaze.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. There is an actual there is rules and lore here. I don't know how Stephen King pans it out in his book, but at the same time, I'm told that this movie is better than the fucking book, which is why Kubrick made it the way he did.
Hmm.
Um,
Man,
so yeah,
have you heard about the guy who is completely convinced that Stephen King killed John Lennon?
that Stephen King killed John Lennon.
It's out of this world and it's got legs. It's got a lot of legs.
Was Stephen King in New York at the time that that John Lennon died?
This guy has like some $1,000 bet that nobody can disprove him. He's got the whole case laid out. But I want to say this.
You'll never be called to prove a negative, though.
What? Well, yeah, yeah. He's made quite a reputation for himself. He's a study in and of himself. But something he's not bringing to light that actually Juan and Old World Florida, Dr. Narcolongo, there's a whole sequence of people who have this particular genetic that looks like Stephen King. And I think Greer, the guy Greer from,
Okay,
yeah, from the UFO movement,
sure.
they have this weird kind of frog mouth.
Oh, okay, right.
Stephen King has it, and so does Chaplin, or the guy that killed John Lennon.
Well,
They all
they're probably of the bloodlines in question, and
yes,
you're picking up on traits of their tribe,
that's
right?
what's happening.
You know,
Totally.
and yeah, the fact that they got that kind of look, I mean, like this could have been what Lovecraft was picking up on with the Innsmouthers, the
Yeah, Z.
right? And
Booyah.
The Daganites are going to be part of the Sea Peoples Federation, which is the precursor to history that was part of the things that brought about the modern Greek civilization that we know in history, and a lot of other things happening around various coastlines because they were one of the survivors of Atlantis and stuff. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that's going on with this thing, which can't, just like people don't want to realize that certain people have been in certain important aspects of history that, mean Mr. Mustache had to ruin for everybody with his horrible conclusions about the facts. This scene right here is okay, so the scene happening in the main room, in the writing room here is where Danny's showing up. Danny's got that injury that was accused of. That's what's happening in this particular scene. Um, I labeled this one inner rage because I think that this was yeah, that's right. Jack is literally he's actually in the same spot that Danny is, just the cameras are flipped around.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
because there's a counter right there, um, and I think that counter is in Jack's shot, and that's where Jack goes down the hall. He's angry with Wendy and or Danny about one of the things that happened, and he just has a little temper tantrum moment. He knocks shit off, right? So he knocks some shit off just like that. But in this shot, he's actually over by that desk. What in the shot that Danny's in? That's what's
Totally.
going on over
And
there.
what is the phrase that so many fathers have yelled at the kids for so many generations? Knock that shit off.
Right. Amongst many other things. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, then this is where they're having the it's very interesting. These two scenes are happening in the same room from different positions, because this is also the scene where Jack is having his nightmare, right? If this scene is actually going, I can't remember if the scene's going forwards or backwards, but this scene is starting off. Wendy shows up before Jack does. He's having the nightmare that he would that he killed Danny or whatever, right? Like this is before he was getting any of those insinuations from the ghosts.
Yeah, man. The nightmare. I just want to point at the Thumos equinus. Thumos is the dark horse from the Greeks. They believe that it's the renegade rebel horse, the shadow, if you will, the shadow drives. And then Aquinas means horse. But Thomas Aquinas's name is also a whisper of this dark horse.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do believe the idea of sublimated rage is such an ancient artifact. But I'm just going to mention the Thomas Aquinas in the native region. It was really Thomas Aquino. Aquino is Aquinas's family name. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the Michael Aquino family heritage of epigenetic trauma is probably
Mm,
definitely a torch still being preserved in the higher circles of influence.
gotcha. This particular scene, this is where she's made the accusation and says, "How could you?" Um, this is also the scene you can see where it says "red rum"
Totally.
across in the
She's
other
seeing,
scene.
yeah, she's seeing red. She's finally seeing red.
Yeah, she's seeing the, yeah, right, exactly, because in the way that this tracks, this eventually leads to her smoking and freaking out, and she can't use the radio and all that stuff, right? You know,
Yeah,
because it's making her realize that her husband is not who she thought he was. Yeah, and then what's going on here? So Lloyd is here. He's having a talk with
Oh,
Jack, and
his name
what's
is
going on?
Lloyd.
Wendy is doing something in the oh, that's right. That's Chef is here, and he's why did I call this between Lloyd and Wendy?
Ah,
I don't remember why I called it that exactly, but this is the scene where the chef is um I think he's at home. I think he's at home, and he hasn't left to he hasn't gone on the plane yet, or
oh, he's
anything. I
get.
think he's like making the phone call to the sheriff that the CB radio is supposed to go to. I think that's what's
That's right.
happening here,
That's right.
while Lloyd is thickening the plot on Jack.
Big time. Wow, this is super potent. So, like, I was thinking about the bartender as a lawyer. It's very fascinating. His name is Lloyd,
Mm.
as he's kind of your second. He's your double. He's your psychopomp. The bartender is a psychopomp, much like a lawyer is your psychopomp through the legal procedures.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
He has a very, like, he's got the Loki vibe too. I mean, look at this smile
yeah,
that he's got on his face and stuff, right? And he's got that kind of frame, for the Loki archetype.
big time.
Yeah, yeah. So this is great. Jack's having the drink that Lloyd gave him while he's also making out with the chick that's about to reveal herself as a corpse.
Oh, that is so on point, brother. It just tells itself there's nothing to add.
I know. I know. It's just like the alcohol colored glasses. I seriously
Yeah, I
it
guess we
does.
could mention Al Gohl, the star of Al Gohl, is the head of the hag. It's the head of Medusa,
Yeah.
and it's on the hip of Perseus,
Mm.
and he's getting stoned in that moment as he's
Mhm.
taking in that drink,
Yeah.
and yeah, even hag
Mm.
is that's actually harmony, arithmetic, and geometry. Uh, but it was also the heart attack gun. At the church committee, when they held up the heart attack gun, the
Uh,
HAG, it's a neurotoxin that shoots an ice cube that then kills you with leaving no mark.
oh, okay, got it. Yeah, one of
Yeah,
those.
very Medusa centric, all of these things.
This right here, because this is also because it's a long conversation he's having in this scene with Lloyd, right? While he is negotiating the drink or something, right? Like I called this one Predator Within. This is also the scene when he first opens the door before he's making out with the girl, right?
Oh,
And he's
yeah.
staring at her lustfully. So I called this one
Wow.
the Predator Within.
Yeah, he's making his approach.
Yeah, yeah. So right here, there's another split going on with Jack, and this is the room 237 door. And here's the split. Here's his mind split at 237.
Man, man, what kind of mind can can initiate this kind of weaving? It's so perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of suggests that this particular bar scene is the most important bar scene in setting his psyche up for the rest of the film. That's what it's basically suggesting, even though it's not the scene that brings him to the bathroom for the final uh, conversation. Um, then this one was just while Jack is in the room, or he's about to go into the room because it's running backwards, I think.
Hmm.
Um, Danny is doing one of his shine things in the movie, um, which I think it's one of the ones where I think it's one of the ones where he's seizuring. I think he's having one of his shining seizures.
Okay.
In this particular scene while he's going into 237. So the psychic tension is there on both sides. It's crazy.
Sins of the father.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I called
Here
this one
we go.
Convergence. At an hour at an hour and 13 minutes exactly is when the film synchronizes with itself. This scene here where Danny is making his 911 call to his black friend, because the radio's out and psychic communication is literally the only option when he shines to Chef. This is when, and it's the coolest shot in the forwards and backwards because it's pans in and then it pans out, and so it looks psychedelic as it's panning in and panning out, just like that, because it's the backwards and the forwards of the movie meeting. So this is the middle of the film.
It's the incursion point.
Incursion. Okay,
Yes.
okay, better.
I love this. And it's happening. He's got a divine feminine above his head,
Oh yeah.
and there's a divine feminine down at his feet. So that is very much in my read of it correspondent to the Virgo of the Mother Mary and the Lupus constellation in Libra, who is the prostitute. So the two Marys are zodiacal, and Virgo is the mother, and Lupus is the whore, and he is uh, right at the in between point of these two constellations. That is the winter equinox. It is the moment when we're at the equal point between 50% sunlight and 50% darkness. And that's where the movie crisscrosses on itself, and it's right at his toes. And
Mm.
he's looking through his own toes at the TV. Zerilath, can you pull up the most recent graphic I sent to you in the telly?
Yeah, yeah. Hang on.
This moment where the film crosses between his toes as he's kicking back. This is the come to Jesus moment, the chapel perilous. This is the midwife crisis of the soul, poetically speaking. And it's also kind of a heros a sacred wedding, where the elements of what is moving backwards converge with the elements that are moving forwards. And so, this moment of inception or incursion between the two timelines, I have a graphic that I just want to share regarding Heroscamos. And it's, yep, thank you.
One. All right.
Thank you, yes. So a lot of people know what Heroscamos is, and they just kind of take that academic definition, and they don't really give it a lot of applicative. They don't play with the idea very much. This is me playing with the idea a lot, and it's highly masturbatorial, by the way. This whole concept. So PR is 16 is a 7 and a 9. It sums up to a 16. HB is an 8 and a 2, sums up to a 10. And also, PR is a 7 and a 9. That's the periodic number for gold. 79 is the number of moons of Jupiter, allegedly at one point in time. I'm sure you'll get any answer you look for. Also, 82 is allegedly the number of moons of Saturn. And so the Hyros Gamos of the 79 PR and the 82 HB is a union of these two patriarchal icons. You can think of one as good cop and the other one as bad cop. You can think of one as dad and the other one as grandpa. You know, these generational archetypes, they play out in fascinating ways in an alphanumeric cipher regarding porn and hub. Porn hub is at PR. HB is the hub. And what is this acronym? When you look up PRHB, it's an acronym for the pattern of risky health behavior. If you
Okay.
jerk off too much, you'll go blind, y'all.
Right. Now, here's the thing. You've got 79 over here is AU gold, right?
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
AU is
Because
gold.
gold is a correspondent to the sun, not Jupiter, because lead is correspondent to Saturn.
You're so right. Thank you. You're so very right. And also astronomical units, you know,
Yeah.
the measurement to the sun.
Is it tin? I think tin is Jupiter's element. Yes.
Yes, 10, number 50, I think. Number 50 on the periodic table. Yep.
I'm just looking it up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so the pattern of so yeah, so it's the 82 moon Jupiter, which has 79, right? So yeah, but we are talking about the moons at the same time. So yeah, that's yeah, but the fact it's got the 82 moons, 82 for lead, that is certainly significant. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how I feel about the not so much how I feel about it, but
Right. The part
I should
that,
have said alchemical element.
yes, the part that gets me is the Hyros Gamos of the elements, and the fact that, you know, this Pornhub encodes these whatever celestial truisms that are totally questionable. But it's really funny because in the film, he's at the part where he's laid back, looking between his legs, down at the TV playing across the room. Uh, and I think he's watching cartoons. I forget what cartoon it was.
Cartoons? No, I don't think he was
Wh-
watching a cartoon.
What was he watching? Was it like
He was
Jackass or no? What was it?
I don't remember. It wasn't anything childish. That's for sure. It was like, you know, He's a grown man. Wow, he was watching a grown man's thing.
Well,
I can't remember what it was though. I
it
can
was a
look it up.
comedy, I think. I'm trying to remember. Oh man, the Yeehaw. Yo, no, the Hee Haw. It might have been Hee Haw. Shoot, it could have been Soul Train. That would have been awesome. That would have been great, way better if it was Soul Train.
Ooh.
Soul Train.
Forgive all the muting to blow my nose. I was working with a tremendous amount of dust at the job today.
All is well, my friend.
Ugh, okay. Excuse me.
Just like Tony Montoya.
Right, right. All right, let's see. Where were we? Here.
Salud.
Okay. So, um, I called this one Minotaur Bruiser. I'm trying to remember exactly why. I know that the Minotaur thing was because this was him in the hallway again, huffing and puffing like like the Minotaur. Um, and then I think there was something going on with the bruising. I think it was having the bruising argument with Wendy
Oh,
again, or something like that in this particular scene.
interesting.
Right.
All those wrinkles on his eyebrows, like the eyebrow wrinkles of this man are probably the most iconic eyebrow wrinkles I can think of in all of Hollywood. And in
Right.
in a great amount of the John the Baptist art lineage, many, 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 many artists take the time to distinguish John the Baptist with excessive forehead wrinkles.
Mm.
And I have reason to believe that this is a symbol of the those who have eaten a lot of brains in their family history. I think that's part of the John the Baptist
Ooh,
iconography.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Mm.
That's a graphic from way back in the library of Slick.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, right here, because the audio was actually significant. This is the Apollo scene. In the Apollo scene, Jack is having a drink in the gold room again. This is the first time he tries to give his money to the ghost. And the ghost says, "Your money's no good here," while Danny is rising up in Apollo. He's telling you something about the Apollo budget.
Wow, yes.
There's something about the Apollo budget that he is saying in this scene
Yeah,
that
maybe that
somebody didn't have to pay for it. A
right.
particular person didn't have to pay for it who ordered it.
That's a good point. I would even say like there's a certain echelon of affluence in this world where money isn't the matter. It's more about reputation and who mantles of influence
Right,
and
right.
who's entitled to control this, that, or the other conceptually.
Yep. I do also want to point out that I think I think I heard this correctly because I'm pretty sure I heard Dana from Rotting Jewels talk about it. Is that Jack was involved with people in the process church, right?
Like Jack the actor or Jack
Jack
the.
Nicholson, this
Oh,
guy right here that we're
snap.
talking about.
Yeah, I shouldn't
You
have
know,
even asked. Yeah,
I mean,
that
look,
makes
look, look.
more
She
sense.
found out that Alan Watts was involved with the process. So I mean, like all of our heroes, who knows? Maybe in the '70s it wasn't easy to tell.
That damn House of the Rising
Because you're in the
Sun.
middle of it, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay, we got what we got here.
Makes me think about how like Jack in reverse is Cage, even.
Yeah, you're right.
Old
You're right. It is.
Nick Cage might be carrying a mantle.
Yeah, yeah. So, I called this shot "To Betray Your Son." Um, so if I'm remembering correctly here, I
I'll be right
believe.
back, Z. I gotta hit the head. I'll be right back.
Okay, okay, all right. So I'm assuming you can hear me. So right here is Yeah. This is the scene where Grady and Jack properly meet. That's right. That's right. This is where they bump into each other, and because Jack is standing in the backdrop here, that's his head in the silhouette, and then this is Grady, the waiter, and he bumps into the chick with the white dress who's got the red mark that looks like a handprint on her ass that was pointed out by Ryder in his Clockwork Shining. And then this is the scene that kicks off the conversation in the bathroom. And so he's also having this moment right here with Danny while this is happening, so there's an inherent betrayal occurring with this. So we'll come back to these pictures. I'm sure Slick's not going to be long, and he better wash his hands. I will know somehow. Probably not, but I'll pretend that I know just to make him paranoid. But anyway, so um Wednesday came back around and not precisely everything that I caught in the film. There's still like because we're through that we're past the halfway mark now, right? So there's actually going to be less slides because we've been watching the film forwards and backwards, and almost everything lines up just right. And the only reason why there's more of these is because what's running forwards is a little bit more solid than what's running backwards. What's running backwards is opaque, while what's running forwards is solid. So a handful of things I would have noticed on the opposite run. But okay, let's go back. So you heard me talking about this. This is the scene where Grady meets Jack. He's bumping into into the lady in the white, who then bumps into Jack, messes up his clothes, takes him to the red room. That's what happens in that scene, which we passed earlier already in the other side of the run. But these are slightly different sync ups or notices that happen on the other end, and I was explaining that that there's going to be less slides because there is a lot of repeats moving forward.
Yeah, man. I mentioned it in my last live with Chris, but the idea that every film is actually a hyper sigil, and I love this approach of coming at this film in particular because it shows some of the structure and the intentionality of the hyper sigil. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that kind of like, the Bible, people call it a book, but it's really a compendium, which means it's a library. And if
Right.
it's a library, then it's also justifiably a hyper sigil in and of itself. But yeah, film likewise.
Yeah. All right. So then, like I said, Wednesday, and then I thought this was interesting. I called it Through the Looking Glass because while these two are having their conversation here, Jack is sitting at the bed to talk to Danny. It's running backwards, so Danny's actually on his way out. But there's Jack in the mirror looking at us while Jack is got his back turned to us while talking to Grady, and this is all about killing him, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Grady has the gloves of the touchless death, which Mickey Mouse also wears, the gloves of the touchless death. Very correspondent to many like Masonic rituals, but also in the military.
Okay.
It means that there's no information can track to their decisions now. They're absolved. It means absolution.
Yeah. I see how that works, at least symbolically in ritual land.
Right. Yep.
Doesn't hold up in forensics, sir.
But needless to say, I did put my gloves on just a second ago in the bathroom.
So this I called eavesdropping on cue. So while Jack is having the conversation, Danny is doing an eavesdropping thing at this door. I forget exactly what it is, but it's kind of funny because it implies that Danny, with his psychic abilities, can eavesdrop on the plot against him.
Right.
And then I had taken this photo again as I was just running through stuff on repeat. My eyes were glazing over. Here's Monday on this one, just with this wild look on his face.
Where he's about to go loony.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I called this file the very willful boy. I believe Danny's here in the background. I'm forgetting exactly what's going on here. But this is where he's talking about Danny and his talents. Like they don't like the movie doesn't use words, right? Like they don't say Danny's psychic. He doesn't say like, oh, Danny's got a an imaginary friend that's help. It's like no, it's just like no, he's very talented and X, Y, and Z, and he's ruining your plans for this big job of yours that nobody can explain is why it's such a big fucking deal. So this is interesting. This vision of the twins murdered in the hallway, juxtaposed over Jack's face.
Damn.
That's at 13327. Hour and 33 minutes and 27 seconds. That's the way these things are syncing up. So this I called Wendy Plans and Does. Here is um, Wendy's smoking this. I think this is the same freakout scene, but lines up a little bit better with what she's trying to do in the radio room. So it's kind of funny because it's just like Wendy's trying to make these plans for something. Like she's trying to make plans to get out or communicate out. But then also here's a scene in the past where that wasn't a problem at
Right.
the same time, right?
I just want to point at the Bernays psyop of freedom torches, and the Wendy's freedom tends to be a reoccurring theme, much like and let's think of this poetically as like her voice, her freedom to speak, her freedom to speak out, and is also correspondent to the sublimation of the cigarette in the freedom torches.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. And then this here I called it Red Rum Radio because uh, Danny's doing one of his Red Rum things while she's on the radio also. This might be the same. It might be the Red Rum alarm scene I think is playing back on this one. This is the handful of things that are just different on the other side of the half.
Yep, yep.
There's Saturday. Saturday lines right up with Jack's evil intent to take out the radio system. So all
Yeah.
this radio stuff I was able to like kind of grab in serial
Yeah,
here on this back end of things.
yeah, and let's not miss the clock. It's like Saturn's day, and there's a big fat clock on the wall. you
Yeah,
know.
it's a very it's a clock. I think that might be a thermostat on the clock.
Mm.
That might be giving you the temperature outside too.
Oh, that's
Right?
interesting. That would be Saturn and Mercury combined if it is a thermostat,
Right,
which
right.
is happening right now in the sky. Mercury is
Yeah.
running away from Saturn as we speak.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and there's a couple of interesting scenes where Jack's face kind of lines up with the clock, and like honestly, it kind of implies an upside down cross.
Kind of, or yeah, or even an
Yeah,
Ankh.
especially because there's a scene like the shot was there. I just didn't draw any attention to it. I wasn't because I didn't think about it then so much either with everything I had to think about saying. But it's like a mark of the beast thing. You carve the upside down cross on your forehead because you're an edge lord.
Uh-huh.
and that's just the way this looks because because it's like this fat bottom. It just comes off as an upside down cross, and Yeah, yeah. So, but I could be thinking that it means other things too. Could be a
Hmm.
giant exclamation point.
True. Good point.
All right. And then here's Jack with the sinister look again, and then here he is doing the sinister thing. So
Yep.
he's so I call this one Sinister Silence.
Oh, yeah. It kind of makes me think about pre-crime too. That or the premeditation. That it's premeditated. It's occurred to me recently that the concept of pre-crime at large is an assault on your Fifth Amendment, and it's basically I'm thinking pre-crime is the insurance companies vanguard assault on your Fifth Amendment. But yeah, uh, just some little notes that come to me when I see him premeditating his crime.
Yeah, yeah. I call this one the work and no play. Um, if I'm remembering correctly, it's because I think here he's asleep because I think it's that nightmare scene again, and then I think over here he wasn't able to. I can't remember why I called it this. Let me see if I got a hint out of it in the next frame. No, no, I didn't. um, but you can timestamp that and try to draw context at 13858. Um,
Right.
check this video after the live. I have to go back and and fill in all the description details. I'll put a link on Odyssey to where I got this from because you can watch this for free on Odyssey. However, be patient with it. It doesn't get a lot of latency out of Odyssey because it's from like an 80 sub like
Yeah.
channel. It's like a real like bottom barrel,
Yeah.
just like I think that's the only video on it.
Can you go back on that graphic? I just want to weave on just symbolically. I want to think about the Damocles sword and the way that that chandelier is kind of crowning over his head.
Sure.
And you could even think that that's all the work and none of the play. And
Sure.
there's also something of a wheel of fortune in the aspecting of um, um, that chandelier, the candle chandelier, very much makes me think of the Wheel of Fortune. And this is the Deus Ex Machina. This is the God machine that's going to come and resolve everything. And he's just hoping that there's some the story's going to write itself, and he can't get it to write itself. And this God machine is going to resolve everything. I just want to point
Yeah.
at the AI. The AI is Damocles' sword. And for a lot of people who are artistically inept, they're
Yeah.
going to lean to this machine and make it come and resolve everything for them and turn
Yeah.
them magically into an artist.
Mm. The other thing that I will say about what this looks like is with this chandelier is here's the circles of hell and here's Satan.
Totally. Dante's nine concentric rings.
Yeah, I mean it's just three, but it still works because they're descending. They cone in like that's the way it's described. Except
Hmm.
that there's 9 levels, and
Yeah,
you know it's a frozen wasteland in Satan's domain. It's a frozen wasteland for most of the film.
right. Yep.
He's a
And
big horned beast.
and even his table is like glossy wood, much like the bottom layer of Dante's hell is iced over. It's
Mm,
cold.
mm, indeed. So Danny here is picking his curiosity at 2:37, and it just happens to line up with just chef making the drive to the overlook in the winter, and there's just the blue glaze over uh, on his car or whatever. This man left paradise. He left paradise to come back for this shit. This man's a fucking hero. He didn't have to fucking get up. He didn't have to do that. His wellness check ought to have been good enough. But no, this is a damn good man right here. This man, you invite him over for Thanksgiving. All right. Then here's the accident scene again with a sync up that works with Danny. He's driving backwards in this, and so this Danny looking back
Wow.
at 237 while so he's looking back at this accident.
Dude. Okay, let me just mention that Tesla trucks is an anagram for lets us track. In those last few terrorist attacks with Tesla trucks, sure enough, people were breaking out the map and tracking them as they go from one power station to the next. And it was in the name all along. Lets us track.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like Elon Musk is he had that big relationship with the guys with Rick and Morty. They immortalized him with the Tusk character they created, and so naturally Elon Musk is going to be interested in doing things like what Rick and Morty's spaceship can do. If you've seen some of the episodes, there's all sorts of autonomous little things it can do. Now, granted, Rick is a anarchist, right? So his stuff is wired into his terms as opposed to wired into the government, which already said in the show is that Rick is effectively a living god because of how good he is at super science, right? And it's just like the American government cannot tolerate a living god that will not concede or something like that, right?
Totally.
So like this is how much they upped the stakes for Rick in that season. They amped him up quite a bit. But anyway, let's see here. This is the Tuesday rolls around and this scene pops up for Tuesday. It's rather mundane, but that's what's happening right there. Um, this is yeah, this is Wendy again on the approach to the book while the hedge maze situation is happening earlier on in the film,
Wow,
right?
yeah. That would, you know, she's about to find the Ariadne's thread.
Mm.
That's the magical spindle of yarn that helps. Um, hold on, what's his name? Thessaly. The Thes Thessaly? No, hold on.
Yeah.
Theseus. That helps Theseus find his way out of the maze.
Gotcha.
That's what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is this is just the same thing from earlier. Wendy's got the bat and Jack's playing ball. It's just the same thing. Um and then I kind of like this one where Wendy and Danny are in the maze and but Wendy's also looking at the all work and no play. So I just kind of grabbed that. Um and then here's Jack playing again and not getting any work done over the words. Um,
So
and
it's
so here's Jack. He's lounging early on in the film, like having that comfortable conversation,
yeah.
and then this is the scene where Jack shows up behind her and says, "Hey, do you like it?" The most asinine question in cinema. Um, and so I called this shot Stovington Psycho because he's got this Stovington shirt, So I'm
Wow.
wondering. I looked it up. I couldn't find anything particularly significant about
I
Stovington in
I
the
got something.
70s.
I got something for it.
Okay.
Tavistock is an anagram for stove tick, and Tavistock are the arch gaslighters extraordinaire. They've been gaslighting humanity for generations. And
Right.
here is the gaslighting moment where he's about to say, "Do you like it?" It and
Right.
it's all coming to a head for her, and she is this is the spark that's going to set the fire that he's been gaslighting her with all along.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. You know something? This bat is a signature. This is a signature bat. This
Interesting.
bat is endorsed by somebody.
Hold on, hold
I
on. Let me
never-
correct you. Let me correct you for the sake of the sovereign Zizians.
Oh boy.
It's an autographed bat. And it turns
Right.
out, Zerilath, your autograph is not the same as your signature. This is some high grade sovereignty knowledge right here. I had I used to bring checks to a particular bank all the time that was not my bank. And the one bank teller, he used to always look me in the eyes and ask for my autograph with a knowing smile. And that's because he knows there's a difference between your autograph and your signature. And that difference is whether you're in sovereignty or if you're entangled into commerce at large. So yeah, that's pretty interesting to
All
me.
right. Well, okay, so the bat's a Louisville Slugger, which is, close match, Wilson, genuine, Porta. It says here, I'm looking at spotearn.com, apparently has the answer. So close match Wilson, uh, genuine 125 Ash, poor
Oh,
adolescence. I think that's because it's a small bat. It's like a child's bat. Then it says something. It looks like it's French. Uh, Telefrine or something like that. 30, which okay, it's not tell. I want to know whose signature is on this. Do all Louisville Sluggers have the same signature on it or autograph?
dude, there's a Gnostic artifact here, and I'm forgetting the name of it. It's oh, it'll come to me in a minute. But yes, this bat is like the sacred implement between the masculine and the feminine. It's like a go between. Oh, this Gnostic artifact. It's teasing me because I think that word you said, tephiline, it's very close to that word.
Hmm. Okay. One more shrine. Dumb things in the shining everyone ignore. No. Now what really happened? What bat is it? Just all right. It just says Louisville Slugger. I'm gonna have to spend. I would have to find time to like. I want to know what this says right here. That's driving me crazy now that I think about it. All right. Anyway, um, so here's a scene.
Tabaniver. It's tannin ivor. That's the name of it. That bat represents the tannin ivor.
What is that other than sounding kind of like Tammany Hall, which was the first word that popped into my head?
Yeah, it's some sort of sacred prophesized tool that Samael and Lilith require for coitus. And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, that's what it is.
Damn. I need to know more about this in my studies of evil.
Yeah, that is totally the Tannin Ivor, the Shamael and the Lilith convergence moment, big time.
So that's just the month later scene being shown. All right, what we got here? So this is just another way things line up with when Jack gets locked in the locker room after Wendy knocks him out, and then we got the scene with Wendy and the chef uh, um, being shown stuff, right? So this is I like this because this kind of implies, well, here's Chef saying, like, telling her what you need to do later to save your life. Pay attention because I'm trying to save your life, bitch. That's what I
Right.
think this scene is saying.
It's kind of what is that? A panic room. He's
Yeah,
kind of seeding
yeah.
her
It's
consciousness with the
technically
panic room.
it's like a reverse panic room when you think.
Kind of, totally. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Because she locks him in. Yeah.
yeah. It's like Superman 2. He locks himself in the chamber, and it's everybody else who got turned into normal people. And right here, I called this one the swastika mind because while he's doing this, he's got his hair parted over like Hitler. This is the scene in the gold room early on when people are still there, and this is passing by that big Philfot or swastika that's on the wall.
Wow. You know what? Just right now, looking at him, he looks a lot like Abraham Lincoln. Just, just a random observation. I'm just
Yeah, yeah, between
spitballing.
the way his forehead is there, the way his chin. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He,
yeah.
he
If he
kind
was a
of.
little bit taller,
Yep.
he probably could have played a Lincoln.
Yep. Big time.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I call this the Red Rum Sisters. This makes a little bit more clarity to the early scene where I kind of forgot. Because here he is, he's doing the Red Rum thing. He's got the knife because he's trying to protect, because his daemon is protecting him and his mom. And then here's that first encounter with the twins again. And I love framing it up with this one because it's got the famous monarch poster
Wow.
that like you can see that whether we're playing it forwards or backwards, right? That's and it looks kind of like a minotaur, the way it's
Okay.
silhouetted
Big
as the
time.
quote monarch, and that's when you see the two girls, right? So
Totally.
yeah, yeah, and there's that's one of the most blatant like Kubrick Easter eggs, like playing on your subconscious with
Yeah,
this
man.
monarch poster right here.
Yeah,
So
big
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And I just want to point out, remind everybody about the video of those twins giving the same eyewitness account at the same time simultaneously. They were describing a gunman, and this gunman had just committed some sort of atrocity, and they're telling him, "Oh, and then he ran away over there," and they're giving a double witness statement, two witnesses. The word witness in Greek is martyr. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of correspond what the twins from yesterday's news were telling us about, yeah, some crime, maybe MK Monarch, Project Monarch operation, all in all.
B Hoff in the chat says that the bat is a Karl Yastremensky bat. Is that right? That sounds
What?
very, very Slavic. Or
Wow.
perhaps it's either Slavic or perhaps Jewish.
Yeah, that is an interesting name for a bat.
Yastremaki. Okay, who was Karl?
Makes me
Uh,
think of Miyazaki.
Yasters. Yast. Yesters.
There's
Maki.
even Yakuza in there. There's a Yakuza anagram in that word.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Karl Yastrzemski. Let's see what Wikipedia will give us on the surface of this guy. Born August 22nd, 1939, nicknamed Yaz, an American former professional baseball player who played his entire career with the Boston Red Sox of the Major League Baseball. He started his career primarily as a left fielder, but also played 33 games as a third baseman. That's 333 right there in his
guess
numerology.
and guess what degree the sun is right now out of Aries? We're at the 33 degrees into Taurus. We're
That's
three
right.
degrees
Robert
into
Phoenix
Taurus.
mentioned that. Shout out, Robert.
Big love, Robert. Today.
He was later first baseman, 18 All Star, possessor of 7 gold gloves. So we got all that action happening in the gold room. Member of the 3,000 hit club. Okay. American League player club. Also, I mean, obviously, he's talking all about his career. Active peak career. American League pennant. Triple Crown. Right. So, he's quite. Okay. So he's from Southampton, New York.
Hmm.
Um, Carol Yastremensky, Carol, okay, born in two, Carol and anglicized to Carl and Hattie Skoniecki. It's, I think, Polish. Okay, Poland. So, both his parents were Polish background. Young Carl was bilingual from an early age, raised his father's potato farm. Carl played Sandlot baseball. Come on, give me something that matters. Also, Little League baseball. Basketball, Mark Bridgehampton broke previously held Jim Brown, signed with the Red Sox, more career shit. All right, so nothing seems to have happened of note. What there's still more here. I mean, granted, they can be going on and on about his fucking career. Batting averages, I don't care. Oh man, I'm not a sports person. Screw this stuff. Almost unanimous. Okay, he was voted most valuable player almost unanimously. One voter chose Cesar Tovar of the Twins. His 12.4 WAR was the highest since Babe Ruth in 27. So he lost a vote for MVP to a player of the Twins. Not that I don't think that's close enough, really. Um, I'm about to get off this guy just because. So like, it seems like nothing happened to him outside of. No player had a longer career. Maybe he died suspiciously. I don't know. Wow, there's a lot written here about him. This is like people know more about this guy than Donald Trump, probably.
Right. And like, a lot of what we do with seeing ciphers and codes in film is metaphorically could be called inside baseball, right? And so to bring in a baseball symbol is just a way of unveiling hallways and hallways of information.
Gotcha. So he retired in '83. So he was an active player when that bat was put on the film.
Okay.
So he would have been a current hero to Danny. He might have been a current hero to the actor.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. All right, so that'll be enough with this guy. I don't think there's anything. If I find a thread on it, I'll make some. I'll make some quick drive stream noting it
Yeah.
somewhere while I'm on my way to work.
One thing I'm seeing is the name Carl, right? Carl Jung has the same birthday as Kubrick. So there's the Carl aspect potentially.
Gotcha. Let's see. Wendy is searching in the hotel. I think she's looking for Danny in the hotel because I think she's locked up Jack.
In the freezer.
Or I can't remember because I'm pretty sure this is the blood that comes earlier in the film. But I didn't do anything with it because it wasn't significantly lined up earlier on in the film the way that it tracked. So while she's looking around the hotel, there's also this bleeding thing going on in the hallway. Let's see. This I thought interesting. Well, Jack is, I think is he in the halls or is he in the maze?
Oh, interesting. I think.
Oh, no, that's right. It's a double threshold. Jack is going outside.
Wow.
While also you're looking at Danny like brushing his teeth and stuff through the door right behind. So there's these two doors that are lining up. So it's a very portally kind of shot.
Totally. Big time. I'm seeing a lot of white fragility all in one image. Like, white fragility is actually true to so many more things than a certain demographic of human beings. The porcelain of your toilet, the porcelain in your bathroom, all these things are white and clean. They're also extremely fragile. And in fact, a lot of people have childhood memories of falling and hitting on the porcelain. As well, brushing your teeth and keeping your teeth as white and shiny and clean as possible. The whites of your teeth is also white fragility. And Jack going walking through the snow on the other layer of information here is he's walking into the whiteness of the winter time of his life. And when we grow old in age, our hair turns white and we become fragile. And so, yeah, there's a ton of white fragility packed into these symbols and this overlay.
Yeah, wow, that's wild. I wouldn't have made such a correlation. Cool.
Yes, and there's even like the word hay is on the star card. Star card's in Aquarius, the winter time of year. But
Yeah.
the hay means window. And what else is fragile? Your windows are fragile, just like don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. There's so much fragility in this image you captured.
Wow, that's something else. Yeah, yeah. All right. So I call this one "Where Did I Park?" Uh, because while like Chef is showing up, he's parking his snowcat at the Overlook. Uh, oh wait, it's either Chef showed up and parked his snowcat, or Wendy found his snowcat. Um, but I don't think so. Yeah, I think this is when he parks and arrives, and that's lining up with the meeting, with the establishment piece here
In the
for the meeting
beginning.
in the apartment, right?
Yeah. Which
Um,
I swear that's the Boulder skyline. That does not look like Estes to me. I can't even get over how that is the Boulder skyline. I don't know what they're telling people it is, but that's Boulder, where Benet Ramsey happened.
right. No, I think the whole thing happens in Colorado,
Yeah. Yep.
right? It's just that Colorado's a big state and it's a big road trip and it's out in the remote parts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And you know what? 2 hours and 20 minutes, and we got through the whole presentation.
Yeah,
That's
buddy.
the
Good
whole
job,
thing.
man. Plowing through.
I can't believe that didn't this. I can't believe this didn't turn into a two-parter.
It totally could have. And that's kind of the thing about this kind of hyper sigil. So we could go through, we could just do the whole thing one more time and talk about all different points we didn't think of the first time, you know?
Oh God, it is a work night, sir. um, but why don't we take a handful of minutes? And if you want to talk about some of your frames that you got here,
Okay.
let's talk for just for a few minutes with some of these frames you wanted to share. So I'll pop this up and then let
Yeah,
me
man.
see where is that? Which one's the first one? Which one was that? Was that the first one with Cthulhu?
Maybe. Yep.
Hold on a second. I gotta check the folder. Uh, let's see.
Yeah. So for the folks watching, this
Then-
was
Yeah,
me. Yep. This was me just depositing a bunch of my Slick Dissident original Logismoi that may or may not support the conversation, just so I wouldn't have to be
sure.
looking for them. But yeah, this is, the Gulf of America now. He just
Right.
changed the name of this.
Yeah.
And that's a GOA. It's a Goa. It's kind of the philological root of Goetics. But also, um, this is where Cthulhu uh, is said to have been summoned from an actual ritual in New Orleans on the 1st of November or October 31st, the overnight of
Oh yeah.
Halloween.
Who said that outside of a South Park joke? Because I know the South Park joke with BP oil spill.
Oh, well, dang, they're probably pointing right at it. Also, yes, because Cthulhu really represents the crashing of the economy, which is also syncopated to the Chicxulub crater that is said to be off the Yucatan Peninsula that took out all the dinosaurs.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there, so
That would
there's
be
a
over here.
Yep, there's a huge correspondence to the actual space calamity and the promise of the collapsing of the economy as well.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to ponder how various events have shaped the world like this, right? With a crater there or whatever. It's just like
Yes,
my thinking has expanded. Like everybody's got a default idea because the dinosaurs were this thing that they were, and it had to be a fast die off, right? And
right,
so it had to be a fast die off, and like it's just of all the exoteric scientific based explanations for what killed the dinosaurs, it's the only one that somehow became our consensus. It couldn't have been some worldwide thing that made a disease happen. Like it couldn't have been any of these things. It had to be the meteor
Hmm.
because that would have caused the events to allow enough things to be in the fossil record instead of just becoming decayed and eaten by other animals and all these questions. Yeah, that's
Totally.
interesting.
Yep. And I would point to Stellium 7's research around entire mountains actually being fossilized elephants, gigantic fossilized elephants. Very fascinating. But yeah, this
Yeah,
is,
there's a lot of fossilized elephants out there.
yep,
I noticed they're one of the more notably recognized mud fossils that you can catch. Yeah,
totally, totally. And so this graphic is the Riddler,
the
uh,
Ritaliner.
the Ritaliner, because the fellow who invented Ritalin is basically repackaging the Pervitin from Dr. Feelgood. And what's really trippy is that the Riddler, he has this question mark spatula that is the actual tool that the pharmaceutical companies use to count out the pills. And the alleged person who has the patent for Ritalin, he claims he was naming it after his wife Rita, but I beg to differ. Uh,
Ah,
but yeah, and then there's a poem here about Carl Jung and the place of riddles in our life, and
mm,
how a lot of people just let these riddles go unsolved.
mm.
Yeah, but this is yeah, this is, and this kind of ties into the rat lines as well. You know, the rat lines are a mystery of history as to which German scientist went to what location and affected culture later elsewhere.
Yeah. The paperclip
The
split up
the paperclip split up. They,
of the scientists and
yeah,
yeah. You would think they would have figured out a something good to do with all that science that could have gone to the public. But nope. But then again, I'm looking at where humanity's at, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'd want to give all the cool stuff to these people either. The problem is that I'm also not allowed to have the nice things. Ugh.
so true. So yeah, Riddler was actually in the most recent The Batman, and yeah, and so more to come on that. Slick
Right.
is going to break down Batman
I
soon.
liked the way they did the origin story of the Riddler in Gotham.
Okay.
Gotham's like I think I caught the first three, maybe four seasons of Gotham. I really liked it.
Okay. I don't know if I remember seeing it. I probably did and forgot. This
Yeah,
is just a random.
Gotham was so cool because everything was just like here's your proto Batman, here's your proto Penguin,
Uh
right?
huh.
Your proto and by proto I mean the characters in those positions while the others are kind of in a weird like um almost anti-hero esque place or
Sure.
or they're just some sort of precursor to it, right? Yeah, like the way
Hmm.
they do the Joker is really wild. Like nobody people don't talk about the way they did the Joker in Gotham enough. I forget the guy's name, but the two seasons that he was in that I caught were excellent. They
I
had him
wasn't.
stapling his face to his head and all that shit because
Oh
it went
damn.
that far. Good
Damn.
stuff. And there was a lot of stuff going on with Arkham too, because Arkham's creating
Yeah.
the supervillains, so they're playing off with the corruption of Gotham and the corruption of the psychiatric facility.
Totally. You can skip this one. This one, it just has the cover art for Dr. Maxwell Jacobson's book.
All right.
This one is our boy Carl Jung.
Yep.
And Carl Jung, in his retirement, he was carving the sacred cube, the sacred monolith, this sacred artifact for his imprint on humanity. And in the center of his imprint on humanity, his sacred cube, his sacred brick, cube brick, in the center of it is a homunculus that is Telesphorus. And Telesphorus is really fascinating. A lot of people say, oh, it's mystical, it must be evil. It's really fascinating. Telesphorus is kind of a nymph who actually occupies your body while you're in a fever dream. This is your parasympathetic nervous system. This is the spirit that keeps you alive while you go on a shamanic vision quest.
Okay. Okay.
And so One on One has actually touched on this before.
Mm.
And Descartes is said to have come back to his body from a psychedelic trip.
Yeah.
And his Telesphorus was like not willing to give his body back. And he had to actually have a battle of wills to get control of himself again. And that was a little Telesphorus homunculus. But
Interesting. Right. I
this
mean
is all,
that this one is relevant because this can apply possibly to Danny's shining ability.
you're right. You're so right. Yeah, man. Um,
All right. So what about the stuff down here too?
Yeah, yep. So this is all Carl Jung. Like I see Carl Jung. This is the closing scene of Men in Black. I think
Yep,
it's
I
after the
remember this
credits.
shot. Yep.
Yes, and this shot is actually invoking imagery from Carl Jung. It's an alien playing marbles and an alien landscape, but they're taking pieces of his artwork that is that stone carving and re-amalgamating it into the backdrop of the scenery and telling us and depicting the famous quote about the aeon is a child playing with draughts. The lordship belongs to the child, or sovereignty belongs to the child. And that's what they're animating with the aliens, playing with draughts and holding a sack full of marbles, much like a placenta. And so, yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
they do this all the time. They hail to the great psychologists so that our psychology from film is affiliated to these culture creators. And I point at Carl Jung, but I always have to mention Alan Dulles. Alan Dulles probably repackaged the natural aspect of Carl Jung to foster the culture that we identify with, our super egos, our age of heroes. We're in the age of Horus, the age of heroes. And Carl Jung's Agatho-Daemon ring is the universe card. This is the Hydrus constellation. It's in the extreme south. This is a male water snake, and oftentimes its head is bloody. Carl Jung's Agatho-Daemon ring is the universe card of the Thoth deck. And there's something else here that's pretty fun. Oh, Carl G. Jung, has gematological correspondence to the phrase of the word conjuring. Carl G. Jung and conjuring are deeply harmonic to each other.
Okay. What is that that looks like a parasite in a petri dish next to the universe card?
Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yes. Uh, this is this is the constellation of Hydrus. It's right next to Indus and Pavo and the telescopium and the microscopium.
Okay.
These are all coterminal to each other in the same neighborhood down in the extreme south. And so when you're talking about a petri dish, that is right in stride with the microscopium. And the military industrial complex is abbreviated MIC. Microscopium constellation is abbreviated MIC.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, it sounds good. I guess. Did you want to comment on the coin real quick, or are we all set there?
That's just an example of Roman coinage that also uses the same Agatho-Daemon symbol, which I'm just always a real nerd about these symbols because there's a lot of snakes in the heavens. This one is the Hydrus. It's the male water snake in the extreme south. And I just think it's really fascinating to actually be able to have visual recognition of the difference between different snakes in the sky. But yeah, Hydrus is significant here.
All right. Okay. So
You could skip this one to go to the next. It's kind of the same thing twice.
Okay.
Yep. So this is the Centaurus constellation and some of the information around the window of time in February. Generally, it peaks on, I think, February 8th. I think my dog's scratching upstairs. Sorry. On February 8th is the peak of the Centaurid meteor showers. And that's also coming out of the week of reading of auguries. It's kind of the tail end of like Groundhog's Day. so to say. It's very close to the Groundhog's Day. A lot of augury reading traditions are happening at the time that the Centaurid meteor shower is taking place. Oh, hold on, I'll be right back. You can skip
Sure.
to the, or actually, yeah, skip to the next one. I'll be right back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotcha. I can see also a little bit of the relevance with this one. You've got this picture here of the. I think this is a character that looks like a character from Kung Fu Panda, like one of the anthropomorphized bison or something that was in Kung Fu Panda, right? And so like that's kind of a minotaur, you know. So I'm just pointing that out. And then he said we can go to this one, and so okay, so when Gabe gets back, we'll talk about this. This is an Ophiuchus situation. We're talking about um, this photo of a man in a Hollywood set coming out of a tinfoil star fort. Um, and then the then the Ophiuchus in the classical map drawing. But anyway, we'll give Slick the minute that he needs. Let me see if I can go ahead. We already looked at that. Okay, Slick is back.
Hey, buddy.
All right. All right.
Yeah, this one is interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, this is the iconic one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Right.
And he even has like kind of serpents going from one side of his body across those the air pumps or the wires of the cords
Uh-huh.
kind of corresponded to Ophiuchus, who has a snake on either side of him. But also, his back is turned to us in this iconic moment. And that's iconic of Ophiuchus. His back is turned to the world. He's stepping off the elliptical plane. And just to one side of Ophiuchus is Sagittarius, which many people will say looks like a tea kettle. And that it's just fascinating because his entire apparatus that he breathes with is something that turns liquid into vapor, his oxygen tanks.
Interesting. Okay.
And Kubrick probably shot this footage. Furthermore, right?
Right. Exactly.
The
Exactly.
same guy who made The
I was
Shining.
making the joke of describing this as a scene in a Hollywood film.
Totally made in a Hollywood basement, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay. Cool. And then I think this was the last one, maybe, or close
Okay,
to it.
yeah, yeah. We can call it after this one.
All right.
This is my grand overarching theory that one of the greatest codes of all the myths and all the legends is revealed through understanding of the meteor shower cycles. And when I was reading the Iliad and getting the uploads on the detailed description of the shield of the Aegis that Hephaestus is crafting, I realized that the 20 billows that he has to navigate and control are very likely the 20 different meteor showers that I'm tracking uh, through the year and getting more and more familiar with. And so it's kind of like a game of whack a mole, and it's very convoluted. It's like a Gordian's knot, where we might be over, if you're tracking time linearly, the meteor showers are kind of popping up here, there, and everywhere. And I'm just getting more and more familiar with them. And so I consider the media showers of today is uh, is the Hollywood and the news cycles.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some
Media showers versus media shower. Yeah. That's clever. Okay. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, and
But yeah,
so
but that also makes sense because you know, wielding when you're working with metal, sparks fly, right? And so the meteor showers are, you know, they look like sparks flying off of metal construction.
exactly, or even volcanoes turned upside down in the heavens, erupting down on us.
Oh yeah, sure, sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure, yeah,
yep,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
and
know,
even the word
from the continents above, right?
totally.
Because
You got it.
if there's waters above, there's probably lands above now, right? We can all worry about that for the next 1,000 years now that I've just blown your mind with alchemy.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, man. It's so powerful. So, yeah, so the bellows, right? Bellum means war. And I think that they can kind of turn up the frog water gradually as they make the drama of the sky more and more intense. And so that's just kind of what I'm on about with this one. And Hephaestus is a Riga who is in Taurus. He's a minor deacon of Taurus. So yeah, very important this time of year that the forge of the bellum and the cerebellum is going to be flaring up like it does.
All right. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So that was The Shining, forwards and backwards. This this is I think between Room 237, A Clockwork Shining, and this live stream, I think everybody now knows everything they will ever truly need to know about The Shining that matters.
Thank you so much for having me on, Zerilath. It's always a joy and a pleasure, my friend.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, I will catch you all later. We're going to kill the stream. I will work on all the little tidbits from this rush job later because I'm tired and I got to wind down. All right. Peace.
Big love, y'all.